She is bleeding out. We have to transfuse her now. No, no blood. We will not take blood. Sir, look at me. Your wife has minutes. Do you understand that word? Minutes. I understand it, but we cannot break God's law. Not even for this. Not even for her. The floor of the delivery room was turning red. Behind a thin blue curtain, a baby girl was screaming for a mother who could no longer hear her. And Nurse Osas stood in the middle of it all. One hand pressed flat against a dying woman's belly, the other reaching for a husband who loved his wife enough to let her go. Before we begin, tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight, and carry this with you as the story unfolds. Faith and fear can wear the very same face, and sometimes the longest war is not the one we fight against death. It is the one we fight against the silence between the people who love us. So sit back, hold someone's hand if there is one near you, and let me tell you about the night Itohan Memorial Hospital almost lost a mother who had only just become one. 40 minutes earlier, that same room had been full of joy. Tega lay against the pillows with her hair stuck to her forehead and her chest still heaving, and she was laughing. Tired, broken, beautiful laughter. The kind that comes after the worst pain a body can carry has finally let go. She is here, Tega whispered. Ovi, she is really here. Ovi could not speak. He stood at the foot of the bed in his Sunday shirt, the one he had ironed himself that morning because his wife liked the collar stiff, and he looked at the small wrapped thing in the nurse's arms like a man looking at the sun for the first time. Give her to me, Tega said. Let me hold her before I forget what waiting felt like. Osas laid the baby on her mother's chest, and the room went quiet. In that holy way rooms go quiet meant something good has happened. The baby's tiny fist found the edge of Tega's gown and held on. 8 years, Ovi said, finally, and his voice cracked down the middle. 8 years we prayed for this, every meeting, every night, on our knees, and he heard us. He heard us, Tega agreed. She kissed the baby's head. She looked up at her husband, and then her smile changed. It did not fall, it just slid sideways, the way a picture slides when the wall behind it can no longer hold the nail. Ovi, she said, something is wrong. Music. The blood came in a rush none of them were ready for. Osas felt it before she saw it, a warmth spreading across the sheet. Too fast, too much. She pulled the cover back and her stomach dropped. Doctor, she called, and there was a thing in her voice that made the whole ward turn. Doctor, I need you now. Postpartum hemorrhage. She's bleeding heavy. Dr. Bello was a big man who walked slowly through life, but he did not walk slowly into that room. He had been a consultant for 19 years, and he could read a delivery floor like a farmer reads the sky before rain. Talk to me, he said, hands already moving. Uterus is soft, it is not contracting. She delivered 6 minutes ago and she has already soaked through. A tonic. He pressed both hands into Tega's abdomen and began to rub hard, the way you must, the way that hurts. Oxytocin fast. Set up a second line. Get me misoprostol and tranexamic acid. And Osas, I want you to call the lab. Cross-match her now. Tell them I may need blood and I may need it in the next 20 minutes. Blood. The word came from the corner of the room. Everyone had almost forgotten Ovi was still standing there. Doctor, he said, what do you mean, blood? Dr. Bello did not look up. His hands were busy keeping a woman in this world. My friend, your wife is losing more blood than her body can spare. We will try the medicines first. We will try everything first. But if the bleeding does not stop, she will need a transfusion to replace what she is losing. Otherwise, her heart will not have enough to pump. Do you understand? And Ovi, this gentleman who had not raised his voice in 8 years of marriage, stepped forward and put his body between his wife and the door the blood would come through. No, he said, we do not accept blood. We are witnesses. My wife and I, we made a covenant. We will not break it. The room held its breath. Sir, Osas turned to him, and her tone was soft, the way you speak to a man standing on a ledge. I hear you. I respect what you believe, but you have to listen to me very carefully. Your wife is dying right now, in front of us. The medicine may not be enough. If we wait too long, there will be nothing left to save. Then we will pray. Prayer and medicine can hold the same hand, Osa said. Let them work together, please. We will pray, Ovi said again, and his eyes were wet and his jaw was iron. God did not give us this child to take her mother. He will not. He will not. The oxytocin went in. The tranexamic acid went in. Dr. Bello massaged until his arms shook, and for one moment, one merciful moment, the bleeding slowed. Then it came back worse. BP is dropping, the second nurse called. 90/50. Pulse climbing. 120. 128. She is in shock, Dr. Bello said quietly. So quietly. Osas, where is my blood? Sir, the husband. I know what the husband said. For the first time, Dr. Bello looked at Ovi and there was no anger in his face, only the terrible tiredness of a man who has lost this argument before. Sir, I am going to be honest with you because you deserve honesty. If we do not give your wife blood, I do not believe she will see tomorrow. I want you to hear that from my own mouth so that whatever you decide knowing the truth. Ovi's lips were moving. He was praying. He did not answer. He is killing her, Tega's body seemed to say, growing paler by the second. But Tega herself could not say anything at all anymore. She had slipped under, her eyes half open, her breath shallow and quick, the newborn already taken to the warmer and crying. If you were standing in that room, what would you say to him? Tell me in the comments. Do not scroll past. I want to know. Would you beg him? Would you respect him? Would you push him aside? Type it now because somebody reading this has stood exactly where Osas was standing and they need to know they were not alone. The door opened and the room got smaller. A man came in who looked like Ovi but harder, older by a few years, with the kind of stillness that some people mistake for peace and others know for what it really is. This was Emmanuel, Ovi's elder brother. What is happening here? Emmanuel asked. Brother, Ovi said, and the relief in his voice was the relief of a drowning man who sees a hand. They want to give Tega blood. I told them no. I told them we do not accept it. Good, Emmanuel nodded slowly. He turned to Dr. Bello, and when he spoke, his voice was calm and cold and certain in a way that made Osas' skin crawl. You will not put any blood into my brother's wife. We know the scriptures. Abstain from blood. It is written plainly. We do not negotiate the word of God in a hospital. Sir, Dr. Bello began. There is nothing to discuss. Emmanuel folded his hands in front of him, like a man closing a door. If God wants her to live, she will live without your blood. And if it is her time, then no blood you pour into her will keep her 1 minute past it. Do your medicine, leave the blood out of it. And the child, Osas heard herself ask. She had not meant to. It came out before she could stop it. When that little girl grows up and asks where her mother is, what will you tell her? That her mother had a chance and the family said no? Emmanuel turned to her slowly. Who is this one? I am the nurse who has been holding your sister-in-law's womb shut with my hands for the last 15 minutes, and I am telling you she does not have the time you think she has. You are a nurse. You are not God, Emmanuel said it, flatly, like he was reading a price. Stay in your place. Here is the thing about Osas that nobody in that room knew. 2 years before, on a night that still woke her to 3 in the morning, she had stood beside another bed, holding another woman, a young mother, the same bleeding, and a family that argued and argued while the clock ran out. By the time they agreed, it was too late. Osas had carried that woman's name in her chest like a stone ever since. She had promised herself, on her knees in the hospital chapel, that she would never stand still again while a mother slipped away inside a family's argument. So when Matron Grace pulled her aside in the corridor, she already knew what she was going to do. Osas, Matron gripped her arm. Listen to me. I have been doing this longer than you. The man has rights. The patient is his wife. If you put 1 drop of blood into that woman against the family's wishes, you will not just lose your job. They can take this hospital to court. You can go to prison. Do you hear me? It is not your decision. And what if she dies, Matron? Whose decision is that? It is not yours to carry. It is already mine to carry. I have been carrying one just like it for 2 years. I will not carry 2. Matron Grace looked at her for a long moment. Then God help you, because I cannot. The corridor doors banged open again, and this time it was not the faith that walked in, it was the family. An older woman came running, wrapper half-tied, slippers swapping the floor, with a younger woman right behind her. Tega's mother and Tega's sister, Efe. "Where is my daughter?" Mama Tega's voice tore down the hallway. "They called me. They said she was bleeding. Where is she?" "Mama," Osas caught her gently. "She is here. The doctor is with her. But Mama, you have to understand something. She is very sick. She is losing blood. The doctor wants to give her a transfusion and then give it. What are you waiting for? Give it now." "Ma," Osas's grip tightened. Her husband is refusing on the grounds of their faith. For one full second, Mama Tega did not understand. You could watch the words travel from her ears to her heart and detonate there. Then she pushed past Osas and into that room like a storm with no warning bells. "Ovie, what is this I'm hearing? You want to let my daughter die?" "Mama, please. Do not mama me. That is my child on that bed, my only daughter. I carried her, I fed her. I did not raise her for 8 years of barrenness and tears just for you to fold your arms and watch her die over a verse." "It is her belief too," Emmanuel cut in coldly. "Tega is baptized. She made the same covenant. You cannot come here and trample on what your own daughter chose." "My daughter chose to live." Mama Tega spun on him. "Show me where my daughter said she wanted to leave her newborn motherless. Show me. Bring her here and let her say it to my face." "She cannot say anything," Efe said quietly from the corner, and her voice was the worst sound in the room because it was so small. "Look at her. She cannot even open her eyes." And it was true. Tega lay still and grey, and the only thing moving on her was the shallow flutter of her chest, faster and weaker than before, like a bird that has flown a long way and cannot find the ground. 80/40, the second nurse whispered. "Sir, we are losing her." "Stop it!" The voice was obvious, but it did not sound like Ovi. It came out cracked and high, a man coming apart at the seams. "Stop it, all of you. Stop screaming over her like she's already gone. She's not gone. She's not." "Then save her," Mama Tega said. "You can save her. The doctor is standing right there with the answer in his hand, and you are the only thing in the way." "I cannot." Ovi's knees gave a little. He caught the rail of the bed. "I cannot. You do not understand. I cannot." "Why not?" Mama Tega cried. "Why? Give me one reason that is bigger than my daughter's life." And Ovie, who had been a wall, who had been iron, finally broke open. And what came pouring out was not scripture. It was a wound. "Because I watched it happen before." The room went silent. "I was 9 years old," Ovie said, and his eyes were somewhere far away, somewhere none of them could follow. "My mother, she was sick. They took her to the hospital and they gave her blood and she got worse. Her body fought it. She burned with fever, she shook, and 3 days later she was dead. They said it was the blood. The blood they gave her to save her is the blood that killed her. I was 9. I held her hand and I watched her die from the thing that was supposed to save her. Do you understand me now? I am not refusing because I do not love Tega. I am refusing because I love her too much to watch the same blood take her too." And there it was. Not faith, not exactly. Faith wrapped around a terrified little boy who had never been allowed to grow up at his mother's grave. A man holding a verse like a drowning child holds a piece of wood because it's the only thing the world ever handed him to keep from going under. Osas looked at him and something in her shifted. She had been fighting the wrong war. She had been pushing against his faith like it was a stone in the road. And all this time, the stone was a frightened boy. And you cannot move a frightened boy by shouting. You move him by kneeling down to where he is. Ovie, and for the first time, she used his name softly, the way you say the name of someone you have decided to save, instead of someone you have decided to defeat. "Ovie, look at me. I am not going to ask you to break your faith. I promise you, I am not." He looked at her, suspicious, exhausted, raw. "What if," Osas said slowly, "there was a way to save her that did not put one drop of another person's blood into her body? What if there was medicine, real medicine, that your faith allows? Would you let me try?" Ovie blinked. "There is no such thing." "There is," Osas said. "I have seen it. But I need you to give me the one thing I am running out of. I need you to give me time, and I need you to let me make a call." Comment the word mercy below if you believe that even in the darkest room, there is always another way that nobody had thought to look for yet. And if you have ever watched fear make a terrible decision for someone you love, tell me about it in the comments. Somebody is going to read your words tonight at their own lowest hour, and you will be the reason they hold on. Osas grabbed Dr. Bello by the arm and pulled him into the corridor. Bloodless management, she said quickly. We do it. Tranexamic acid, we're already on it. Push it to the maximum. Bimanual compression, a balloon tamponade to put pressure inside the uterus. Volume expanders, lots of fluid to keep her pressure up while we control the source. And if the bleeding does not stop with the balloon, we take her to theater and we stop it surgically. We do not need another person's blood to do any of that. Dr. Bello rubbed his face. Osas, I know the protocol, but you are talking about the ideal version, the textbook in a teaching hospital in Lagos with a full theater and a blood conservation machine. Look around you. It is past midnight. Do we have a Bakri balloon ready in this hospital? Do we have everything? And even if we stop the bleeding, she has already lost so much. Her count is dangerously low. The cleanest thing, the safest thing is the transfusion the family is refusing. Everything else is a longer road with more risk, and she does not have a long road left. Then we walk the longer road faster than it has ever been walked, Osas said, because the family is not going to move, and she is not going to wait, and standing here weighing it is itself a decision. Sir, please, I am begging you, try. Dr. Bello looked at her, this nurse who would not let him rest. Set up the compression. Improvise the balloon if we have to. I will open the theater. God help us both. They went back in and they fought. Dr. Bello packed and compressed. Fluids ran wide open into both of Tega's arms. The tranexamic acid did its quiet work in her veins, and for a while it looked like the longer road might just be walkable. And then Tega's body, exhausted past its limit, simply began to quit. She's not perfusing, the second nurse said sharply. Pressure is bottoming out. Sir, her heart is struggling. We are running out of fluid in the tank. This is exactly what I know what it is, Dr. Bello snapped. And then, more quietly, to no one, to everyone, this is the moment. This is the moment the blood was for. Emmanuel stepped forward. And the answer is still no. Brother, Ovie's voice shook. He was staring at his wife's grey face, at the flutter that was getting slower. Brother, she's leaving. I can see her leaving. Then she goes to God clean, Emmanuel said. Hold to your faith, Ovie. Do not let them break you in your weakest hour. This is exactly when the devil whispers loudest. And it was at that exact moment, when the room had given up on surprises, that the last person anyone expected walked through the door. He was an older man, thin, in a simple brown jacket, with a worn leather Bible bag over his shoulder and reading glasses pushed up on his forehead. He moved without hurry, but the moment he entered, Emmanuel straightened like a schoolboy, and Ovie's whole face changed. This was Elder Joshua, from their own congregation, the man Ovie had called in a blind panic the moment the bleeding began, and who had now driven across the dark city to stand in this room. Ovie, Elder Joshua said gently, my son, tell me what is happening. They want to give her blood, Elder, Emmanuel answered before Ovie could. We have refused. We are standing firm. Tell them we are right. Elder Joshua did not answer Emmanuel. He walked to the bed first. He looked at Tega for a long, long moment, at the grey skin and the shallow breath and the newborn crying in the warmer. And then he turned, and what he said next, no one in that room was ready for. To you who, he said quietly, that the only choice here is whole blood or death. Emmanuel blinked. Elder, we abstain from blood. That is true, and it is sacred, and I would defend it with my life. Elder Joshua's voice stayed soft, but it filled the whole room. We are not people who throw our lives away, Emmanuel. We have never been. Do you know how many of our brothers and sisters carry cards in their pockets, explaining the medicines we can accept? Do you know that there are doctors who have spent their entire careers learning to heal us without violating our conscience? Volume expanders, iron, medicines that help the body make its own blood. There is a great deal a doctor can do that does not touch what is forbidden. He looked at Dr. Bello. Is that not so, doctor?
It is exactly so, Dr. Bello said, and there was relief and exhaustion in his voice in equal parts. It is what this nurse has been begging me to do for the last hour. We are doing everything we can without a transfusion, but she's very far gone. Elder Joshua turned back to Emmanuel, and now there was steel under the softness. Refusing what is forbidden is faith, he said, but refusing what is permitted and calling that faith is not courage, it is fear wearing faith's clothing. And you, brother, have been wearing fear all night and calling it God. Emmanuel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He looked, suddenly, very small. And Ovie was weeping. Elder, I did not know. I thought I had to choose. I thought it was the blood or it was nothing. My son, Elder Joshua said, taking his hand, No faithful God asks a man to choose between him and his wife. That choice was never yours to make. It was a lie fear told you. He pressed Ovi's hand into Dr. Bellows. Doctor, whatever you can do that does not require another person's blood, you have this family's blessing. Do it all. Do it now, and do it with God's speed. But the answer in the end did not come from the elder, or the doctor, or the family. It came from the bed. Tega's eyes opened, barely, a crack of light in a grey face, and her lips moved, and Osas dropped to her knees beside her to hear. Osas, Tega breathed, I can hear all of you. I know, my dear, I know. Save your strength. I do not want to die. The words were almost nothing, a thread of sound. Tell my husband, I do not want to leave my baby, but I will not break my covenant either. Her hand searched and found Osas's. Is there a way, a clean way? There is, Osas, she said, and she was crying now, finally, after holding it back all night. There is a clean way. The doctor knows it. Your elder has blessed it. Your husband has blessed it. We only needed you to choose it. Then I choose it. Tega's eyes drifted toward Ovi, and the smallest smile touched her mouth, the same smile that had slid sideways 40 minutes ago, finding its way back home. Ovi, stop being afraid. God did not bring us this far to fail us at the door. And Ovi, the wall, the iron, the frightened 9-year-old boy, knelt by her wife's bed and pressed his forehead to her hand and said, Then live for me, Tega. Just live. Whatever it takes that he allows, just live. Move, Dr. Bello said, and suddenly the room was all motion. We are taking her to theater now. Osas, with me. Push everything. Let us go and stop this bleeding at the source. What happened next, none of the family saw because the theater doors swung shut and held them out in the long, terrible corridor of waiting. Inside, Dr. Bello and Osas and a team that had not slept did the unglamorous, stubborn, life-saving work that no camera ever films. They found the source of the bleeding and they closed it. They held pressure where pressure had to be held. They kept her tank full with fluid while her own body, freed from the wound that had been draining it, slowly began to remember how to keep itself alive. They gave her iron and the medicines her faith allowed, the medicines that would help her make her own blood back, drop by drop, over the days to come. It was not fast, it was not clean, it was a longer road exactly as Dr. Bello had warned, and there was a moment near the end when even he held his breath, but the bleeding stopped. And somewhere past 4 in the morning, a young nurse who had carried one woman's name in her chest for 2 years walked out through the theater doors, pulled down her mask and found a corridor full of frightened, praying people. She looked at Ovi, she looked at Mama Tega, and she smiled. She is alive, she said. She is weak and she will need rest, and it will be a long recovery, but the bleeding has stopped. Your wife is alive. Your daughter is alive. Mama Tega's legs went out from under her and Efe caught her. Emmanuel turned away and put his hand over his face and his shoulders shook, and for the first time all night, the hardness was gone completely from him. And Ovi just stood there, mouth open, tears running freely, until Elder Joshua put a hand on his back and said, You see, my son, you see, he never asked you to choose. 3 days later, Tega sat up in a hospital bed with color back in her cheeks and her daughter sleeping in the crook of her arm. Ovi sat beside her, and he had not left, not once, sleeping in the plastic chair with his Sunday shirt now soft and creased for 3 days of wear.
Mama Tega and Emmanuel stood on either side of the bed, and the strangest thing had happened in 3 days. The two of them, who had screamed at each other across a dying woman, had become careful, quiet friends, the way people do when they have stood together at the edge of the same grave and walked back from it side by side. We have to name her, Tega said. We have been waiting for you, Ovi said. Tega looked down at her daughter. Then she looked up past her husband to the door where a tired nurse in a fresh uniform was leaning against the frame, watching, the way she had watched over them all from the very first scream. Esoy, Tega said softly. Esoy, Ovi repeated. It means God hears. He heard us for 8 years, Tega said, and he heard us on the worst night of our lives when we did not even know how to ask. He heard us through a doctor who would not give up, an elder who came in the dark, and a nurse who would not let me go. She held the baby up a little toward Osas. Esoy, because God hears, and because somebody in this room refused to stop listening. Osas had to look at the ceiling for a moment, and Ovi stood and crossed the room and took both of the nurse's hands in his. This man who had once stood between his wife and her only chance, and he said the only thing there was to say. "You did not just save her life," he said. "You saved mine. Because if she had died with the answer standing in the room, I would have died too. Slower, but I would have died. Thank you for not giving up on a frightened man. Thank you for finding the door I could not see." "I have been looking for that door for 2 years," Osas said quietly. "I am glad I finally found it in time." Now, I want you to hear what this story is really about before you go. It is not about whether a man's faith was right or wrong. A man's faith is between him and his God, and I am not here to judge it, and neither are you. Tega kept her covenant. She lived without breaking the thing she held secret, and that matters. What nearly killed Tega was not faith pretending to be faith. It was a frightened boy who never grew up at his mother's grave. It was a family screaming across a bed instead of speaking to each other. It was everybody so certain the only 2 doors were blood or death that nobody looked for the 3rd door standing quietly open all along. And in real life, this happens more than you would ever believe. Postpartum bleeding is one of the leading reasons young mothers die here and all over the world. Many of those mothers do not die because help did not exist. They die because of the silence in the room, because of the time lost in the argument, because nobody knelt down to where the frightened person was standing and said gently, "There is another way, and we will find it together." So, if this story moved something in you, here is what I am asking. Drop 1 word in the comment below. Tell me the name of someone you have prayed beside in a hospital. A mother, a father, a child, a friend, just 1 name. Let us fill the comments tonight with the names of the people we refuse to let go of, and let us remind each other that nobody fights the long night alone. And if you felt this one all the way down in your chest, then do not let the feeling end here. Look at your screen right now. There is another story waiting for you, and I promise you, it will hold your heart the same way this one did and then put it back together again. Tap it. Stay with me, because the night is long, but the morning always comes, and I have so many more mornings to show you. This is Hospital Tales with Nkiru, and I will see you in the next one.